It's the little things. You know what I mean? It's missing the little things that's been, in some ways, the hardest part of living through the coronavirus outbreak. Our lives have been turned upside down, our schedules are in chaos. It seems to take so much longer to do things that were simpler before the age of social distancing. All of that's true, but it's the little things that I trip over and sometimes develop terrible resentment over losing them. Take, for example, well, at the end of the day, I like to watch a little TV to unwind before going to sleep. And my big three go-tos are documentaries, old movies, and sports. Well, I can still see an old movie and I can still watch a documentary, but it's been several months now without sports. And honestly, I've gotten so desperate, I've become one of the many people who has taken up following marble racing. My team are the Orangers. I like the color, hence the shirt. And I confess, I've done a little complaining, maybe more than a little complaining, about the absence of sports, and have built up a little resentment. And that's a mistake, because that resentment robs me of my joy. Yesterday I was reading a devotion from the Christian theologian Henry Nouwen, and he put these words together that succinctly cover it. One of the things I am sure of, complaining is self-perpetuating and counterproductive. Whenever I express my complaints in the hope of evoking pity and receiving the satisfaction I so much desire, the result is often the opposite of what I tried to get to. Complainers are hard to live with, and very few people know how to respond to the complaints made by someone who seems to be a self-rejecting person. The tragedy is that often the complaint, once expressed, leads to that which is most feared, further rejection. Joy and resentment cannot coexist. And what Nouwen is trying to teach in those simple words is that if we put all of our energy in complaining about what we've lost, then we're really self-focused. And that doesn't appeal to the broader world. But one way of putting the pieces of our shattered lives back together, to borrow a phrase from our last worship series, and to build a beautiful new mosaic to give you a foretaste of this month's worship series, one way to do that is to get outside of ourselves, to get past the pity over losing out on sports or anything else, and see the broader world out there and how we can impact it and make a difference for Christ. All of us have the valid ability to do this, even if we feel like we're invalids sometimes. There's a story about Jesus in John's Gospel, the 5th chapter. You've probably heard it before, and if you've known me for a while, well, you've heard me refer to it before. A fella is waiting by the pool at Bethesda, and this pool of water, supposedly, when the waters stir, the first person to jump in the water gets a miraculous healing. Well, this guy, he's been apparently paralyzed and cannot move. And Jesus comes along and asks him what he's doing laying there, and he explains with these words. Listen to what he says. I'm going to emphasize certain words. Sir, he replied, I have no one to help me into the pool when the water is stirred. While I am trying to get in, someone else goes down ahead of me. Do you hear it? It's all about me, about I, about what I'm missing. Instead of seeing the good news that healing is happening, and the even greater news that regardless of what limitations we may perceive ourselves having, we can still have an impact in the world if we just focus less on ourselves and more on the world and its transformation. One of the ways to creating that beautiful new mosaic that we want to have is to take the pieces that are out there and put them together in a way that changes our community and makes the world more the place of joy that Christ calls it to be. May it be so.